Perfect.
Good deal. All right. Welcome everybody to our self-advocacy FYI. We're going to be talking about that today. If you're looking after this training and want to find out more, David Allgood will be doing a How Can I Help training on July 27th, where he'll be going over different things that, we're looking at advocating for, what you all can do, what's going on in the state and national as far as system advocacy goes. But today we're going to talk about self-advocacy and what that means. There is a really good quote by Tony Costello over here. It says, self-advocacy begins by understanding the rights are granted from not granted from above. They are grasped from below by those with the courage and determination to seize things to which they are entitled. So, yes. So if anybody has any questions, Lindsay's going to monitor the chat and stop me. And if Lindsay, you can just read those out, that would be awesome.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So to advocate means to publicly support something. You can advocate by telling someone else your feelings arise about an issue. Many people think that advocacy is talking about a big issue or supporting something big like a law or policy or protesting, but advocacy can also impact just that one person. You can talk about issues that affect your health, your finances, your goals, your rights, or anything else that affects the way you live in the community and being part of society. Advocacy can be broken into two parts: self-advocacy, which impacts you, and systems advocacy, which impacts you as well as others. Like I said before, in this session, we're going to focus on self-advocacy, but because systems advocacy also affects your life, we're going to touch on that as well. So what is self-advocacy? It's the ability to speak and act on behalf of yourself, and it's making your own choices and working to solve your own problems. So what is a self-advocate? A self-advocate is someone who speaks out for what they believe, someone who works to change the way things are, someone who says what they think and what they feel, someone who takes responsibility for their own life, someone who fights against discrimination and stereotypes. And I'm sure we've all had the opportunity to do this, and we'll have to need to do this throughout our lives. So we're hoping this is helpful. And we're gonna play some videos in this training as well. So let me know if you can't hear.
I cannot hear Carissa.
Okay. Let me turn it up. Okay.
You, the consumer, have the right.
Is that better?
A little bit, still pretty faint.
Okay.
What does self?
Turn it up as high as it'll go. Okay.
Advocacy means to me, it puts the power back to you. You, the consumer, have the right choose your quality of life. And that's what self-advocacy means to me. To advocate for yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, whether it's accessibility, transportation, or any parts of the ADA or anything in everyday life, if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. So that's
Whoops. Sorry, that was me.
what self-advocacy means to me.
Okay. Let me. Whoops. All right. So I love this quote. Absolutely love it. Why be a self-advocate? If you're fed garbage long enough, you acquire a taste for it. And I'm going to butcher this guy's name, but Hall Zukis, a disability rights advocate. I absolutely love that quote. Other reasons why you should be a self-advocacy advocate: disability can color the way people see and interact with you. We've all had those experiences, right? Where people have preconceived notions based on what they think, but what may or may not necessarily be true. And because of your disability, others could be disrespectful towards you, or you could be told that your ideas, goals, and dreams aren't possible. So, 3 very important reasons why self-advocacy is important. Before you advocate for yourself, you have to know yourself. You have to be a self-expert. You have to know what you like and what you don't like. You have to know what rights you have and what responsibilities you and others have, and have to be able to state those. Learning about yourself will help you decide on what you need to advocate for to improve your life. It will also help you ask for accommodations that you need, and how to make those changes and get things done to allow you to be able to be a part of work, a part of class, or another activity. Knowing yourself is an important part of self-advocacy. So we are our own experts, right? If we don't know ourselves, who's going to know us best? You are the expert. Knowing yourself is important. Again, you're the best expert on your disability. You're the best expert on your goals and how you reach them. And you know yourself better than anybody else. So, when thinking about yourself and getting to know yourself, you might want to ask yourself these following questions. What do you feel comfortable and uncomfortable with? What is hard for you? What's important to you? What are your deal breakers? What are your values? And what do you need help with? And you also have to be yourself. You have to do what you love and participate in the community. Don't let others people affect the way you think and the way you see things and what your beliefs are. And you have to be able to educate others about you and other people with disabilities. And it also helps by telling your personal story. So knowing yourself and your values can be challenging. Knowing what you like and don't like and understanding your values will help you be a better advocate for yourself. It will help you understand what you value as we respond to a statement that we're going to do an activity in just a minute. Remember, there's no right answers to this activity, and you don't necessarily have to do it out loud. You can just think to yourself the answers, or you can say them out loud if that helps you, whatever's comfortable for you. So I'm going to read a few statements, and you're going to either say out loud or think to yourself, no way, which means that's not me, or my way. Remember, there's just no right answers. It's whatever best fits you in the following statements. So I'll go through some of these. No way or my way. I'm good with computers. No way or my way. I like to read. I prefer to be by myself, or I prefer to work by myself rather than be in a large group. I know that's me, but I have to do both. No way or my way. I'm good at art.
That's a no way for me.
It depends on the art for me. No way or my way. I have no problem standing for long periods of time. No way. I need things to be accessible. Second set of statements. No way or my way. I value my privacy. Loud places distract and overwhelm me. I like being outside. Spelling words is a problem for me. That's definitely my way. I can't spell. I can or want to drive my own car someday. Third set of statements. I have no problem telling people what I need. That's an important thing to know. I'm good at making friends. I'm working towards a goal. I know how to ride the bus. I've asked for an accommodation before. Our differences make us unique. So, did you learn something about yourself during the activity? Did that help you find maybe some areas where you need support? How might you advocate for what you need or get that support? Okay. Here's a statement from somebody that's had to advocate at school before. And I left it all the way up, so hopefully you can hear.
Hello, my name is Ella Goldberg. Looking at me, you would not know that I'm disabled, but I suffer from many different skin disabilities that dramatically affect my quality of life and my ability to do well in classes. Because of many overlapping medical and psychological conditions, I am a DRC student and rely on the DRC to help me pass and succeed in my classes. One of the best things about DRC is the accommodations are tailored for you. We are all unique, and while my combination of disabilities may not reflect your experience whatsoever, it's important that everyone receives the help that they need in order to succeed. Depending on the class, I've communicated with the TAs and my instructors about my needs. Ideally, that conversation should happen at the beginning of class and not the end, though. It can be incredibly hard to ask for help, especially when people do not understand that the reason someone may be asking for help can relate to disability. We live in a society that sometimes judges and ostracizes people with disabilities and makes assumptions that are not true. That unfortunate truth makes self-advocacy even more important. It has to begin with you. This will be my 7th year as an undergraduate student. It hasn't been a straight path. And in all of those years of college, the vast majority of my instructors have been incredibly kind and understanding. I am very open about my struggles, and I have found that this helps others be empathetic and sympathetic when I need help. But I recognize not everyone can be that cavalier about their personal life. You do not need to disclose details to your instructors. Your disability diagnosis is nobody's business but your own. If you have DRC accommodations, providing your accommodations letters to your instructors is the way you notify professors about your disability related needs. You made it to UCSB and you have the right to be here. You can ask for what you need. The DRC is a resource for students and a welcoming place. I know it's terrifying to ask for help, especially if you've never had to advocate for yourself before, but you deserve to have the best experience you can at UCSB. Your DRC is here to help you. Congratulations on getting into UCSB, and I hope the next 2 years are just as magical for you as they have been for me.
So if you didn't know what the DRC was, she was talking about disability services on her campus. So it would be either student support services or the whatever that college that you decide to go to or school you decide to go to calls disability services. But it's important to ask for what you need. And whoops.
And she made a good point about disclosure, I think.
She did.
It's kind of a fine line there sometimes. When you know, how comfortable you are with disclosing and how far you want to go down with openness, you know, to versus not.
Yeah, she really did. The general rule of thumb I always try to tell folks is it's on a need to know basis. So if it's something that's going to help you, then yes, they need to know, but not everybody needs to know.
Right.
So as a person with a disability trying to learn to be a self-advocate, you need to know your rights and responsibilities. So what are your rights? You have the right to accommodations. You have the right to work and live in a community of your choice. You have the right to community resources. And you have the right to participate in your community in all aspects. What are your responsibilities? You have the responsibility to know what you need. Nobody is going to know what you need but you. So, and you have the responsibility to advocate for what you need. So, people aren't telepathic, as I like to say. So if you don't know, they're not going to know. So you have the responsibility to communicate that. And we have another video about local advocacy here.
Yeah, I had to advocate for myself many times over the years, both Charlotte, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. You have to be strong. You have to have an attitude that I am not going to take no for an answer, because at the end of the day, this is your life, and the decisions that you make impact your life, and you can choose your quality of life. So you just have to realize that you're not going to please everybody, but you must first please yourself by advocating for yourself. There was a board of elections in Charlotte, North Carolina that did not have an automatic power door, and the regular door was more than the 5-pound or 8-pound limit. And so I had to advocate with county government to let them know that they were violating the ADA and try to make them realize that they needed to get the power door, not because Rusty Loudermilk said so, but because it was the right thing to do for the citizens of that town. And eventually, again, not taking no for an answer, I was able to accomplish that. And it made me feel good because even though I no longer live there, it's helping out the people that still live there.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Whoops. Sorry about that. So back to rights and responsibilities. He talked about advocating for the door, and he did that because he was able to do that because there's laws and policies in place. So there's laws and policies that affect your life, whether it's federal law or and granted by the Constitution or the state or local laws. There are rules in place. These laws are required for everybody to follow, including yourself and others. And if somebody breaks the law and it hurts you in some way, you have the right to advocate for yourself. So he was talking about the ADA, and there's an 8-pound door limit for the weight of the door, and anything over that limit, there's supposed to be an automatic door, and there wasn't one. So he was able to use that law to advocate for not only for something he needed, but other citizens needed it as well because it was the law. There's also disability specific laws, laws that affect specifically people with disabilities. These include the Americans with Disabilities Act, or the ADA, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, the Fair Housing, Air Carriers Access Act, and other laws. These laws have many rules that are meant to protect people with disabilities. More on disability specific policies. Policies are one step before laws. They are ruled by government agencies and followed when running programs. These can include Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, housing, energy assistance, SNAP, and there may be other laws that affect your life. CAL, being an independent living center, can help you learn more about these laws and policies that we've been talking about. And there's much information online as well that you can research on your own or with help. So, play another video.
I definitely have to be more aware of asking for accommodations. And sometimes it can be difficult because I've always been an incredibly stubborn person, and having to face that, yes, I need help from time to time has been a bit of a challenge, but I'm finally at the point where, if I'm in my wheelchair and there isn't a button for a door to open for me, I have no problem, asking somebody, hey, can you hold this door open for me? If I'm in a restaurant and we get seated upstairs, I have to tell them I can't walk upstairs and you don't have an elevator. Can you please seat us downstairs? So really, it's been a matter of learning to be more vocal about my needs and not feeling guilty for asking for them.
A lot of people don't think that those are necessarily places where you advocate. You're just asking for something. No, that's advocating. That's asking for an accommodation. So I don't know why it plays again when I scroll. I'm sorry about that. You also have to know your body. Knowing your body and any medical conditions is a important responsibility that you have. No matter how good your medical team is, you're going to most likely know when something is wrong before your medical provider. And you have the right to express any concerns to your medical team and share what experiences you're having with them. You have the right to seek other treatments if your medical team is not a good fit, or they're not listening to you, or they do not agree with you about your health. You have the right to decide whether you do or don't want treatment because you think it may hurt you or is not a good fit for your lifestyle, you live in your body. And with few exceptions, you have the final say on what happens to it. So let's talking about being a self-advocate for a minute. There are many ways to be a self-advocate, including assertively communicating your needs and wants, and we're going to talk about what that means. Educating yourself and others on your rights and responsibilities. Building supports in the community. Setting goals and working through barriers to achieve them. And understanding your rights and advocating for them. So the first step is finding an issue. Before you advocate, you have to have something to advocate for, right? You have to have a specific issue or problem that can be solved that affects your life. So concerns versus issues. Sometimes it can be overwhelming being an advocate because it feels like you're taking on the whole world. I know I've said before that sometimes it feels like I'm working 24/7 if I advocated for everything that needed to be done, right? So it can feel overwhelming. This may happen, the concerns may be unclear, such as you thinking that a building is not accessible or a school is not accessible, and what that can mean for you. It's usually hard to solve a general concern. A tip for being a good advocate is finding some specific issue within that concern to advocate for to make it not seem so broad. Unlike a concern, an issue is focused. So you may be concerned that that building is not accessible, but you need to identify a certain accessibility issue to approach to work for change. For example, the library door is too heavy and could use a button. So that's a place to start rather than taking on the whole building at once and it being inaccessible. So break it down. You may have a concern that people have a bad attitude towards you or be mean to you. You may have concerns. While we all have those concerns, we need to advocate. We need to find an issue to advocate for. Recognizing that you have a family member that uses hurtful slang, we've all heard those terms. The issue may be to ask them to stop using that slang rather than just someone hurting you. It's more focused. So try to reframe your certain concerns into specific issues that help you identify, and it will help you identify areas in your life that you can advocate for yourself. Excuse me, I'm gonna get a drink just a second. Does anybody have any thoughts or questions while I'm taking a small drink here? I know. Okay.
So what's a good approach if we have someone come in and needs a little bit of help with narrowing down a concern into an issue? What's a good approach to help them do that?
Well, I would start by asking them, if they have a concern or issue, well, what's something specific that has happened that's made you feel that way?
Okay.
And maybe start there.
So maybe a couple open-ended questions to get them to look into it specifically themselves.
Give me some examples
Right.
of a time where that's happened.
Okay.
And that may help them focus from that concern to a specific issue. A lot of times it works, sometimes it doesn't, but
Right.
open-ended questions are always helpful.
Okay.
And usually they'll tell you a story and you can focus on an issue from there.
Right.
So once you have identified that issue, the real work begins. You need to figure out how to fix that issue. Sometimes you can do it without assistance, and oftentimes you'll need assistance. So you have to decide what's the best for you there. This is when self-advocacy really starts. Issues can be hard to fix, but with persistence, they can make your life better. Or the self-advocacy can make your life better. So I said we would talk about assertive communication in a minute. So that's what we're going to talk about. Communication skills are very important when it comes to advocacy. Assertive communication can help you clarify and communicate your needs. Being assertive means you are able to be clear and directly communicate your point. Assertive communication also means that you can communicate without putting others down or taking away their rights. So we have to learn to fight fair in advocacy and with our communication. Advocating for something you believe in, need, or want, sometimes tensions can run high, right? Because there's always emotions involved. It also means others can openly disagree with you. That's the conflict. So we need to try to not be a part of heated discussions that may lead to hostility. We do have to find out what the problem is. And we have to address the problem, not the person. So not necessarily their feelings, but focus on the issue. We have to remember not to attach another person to that issue. Part of advocacy is listening to other people communicate their point of view and trying to understand it. Remember that you are responsible for what you say and how you represent yourself. So it's kind of that old saying, you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. You can be assertive and communicate your point, but not necessarily emotional or angry. So fouls in fighting fair, as they call it. Usually when you're advocating for something that you want or need, you feel strongly about it. Feeling strongly about something does not necessarily mean you need to let your emotions get the best of you. And we've all had that happen. So try to avoid some of these things: blaming, getting even, putting down others, threats or threatening language, hitting or violence, and ignoring a person and not listening. You want them to hear you, so you want to provide them the same courtesy. You also need to know your audience when communicating. So often in advocacy, you are advocating for change, which can be small, medium, or large, depending on the issue. It's important to identify the person with the power that can change and communicate to them directly whenever possible. So whether it's a teacher, whether it's a parent on a smaller scale, or whether it's a legislator. Types of advocacy. There are different types of advocacy efforts to look at when you have something to fight for. So for example, You may be advocating for a new medication with your provider, and it may only require a simple conversation. You may be advocating for an accessible ramp in your favorite store, and it might require a short conversation with the store owner. It's important to know your audience and your messaging before you deliver what you're trying to say. Keep in mind how your message may be received and who is receiving it. So you may approach that store clerk or your mom differently than you may approach a state legislator or somebody in a larger company per se. For example, starting advocacy for an accessible entrance to your favorite store may begin by writing a letter to the store owner. Writing a letter may be a better plan than necessarily talking to the store staff that are there for the day. They may not be able to make that change for you or have any power to affect that change. Advocacy is about clear communication with people in power in a way that keeps tensions low and leads to solutions. And it's important to stand up for yourself in self-advocacy. Standing up for yourself may include speaking up to your doctor to make changes for your healthcare plan or medications, speaking to a parent about respecting your personal boundaries at certain times and certain days, or asking a roommate to move their furniture in the common areas to keep obstacles clear so you can get around more easily.
Be your own biggest advocate. This is so important to me. You know your body best because you're the one living inside of it. So you need to advocate for yourself in every way imaginable. If you feel like there's a certain diagnosis to explore, bring it up with your doctor. If you feel like you need a certain diagnostic testing done or a referral to a specific specialist, talk to your doctor about it. If you feel like you're not getting the care you need, voice your concerns. Because if you don't bring up your concerns, or if you don't bring up your ideas for a new diagnosis or testing and whatever it may be, chances are they're not going to be addressed.
It's your responsibility, right? So you have to be the one to do it. So advocacy examples and educating. So you need to educate other people about your wants and needs and desires, just like she talked about. Some examples of those include realizing that a law is unfair and speaking to your legislator about it, or realizing that a school policy or a workplace policy is unfair and meeting with the management team or administration to discuss it. More examples include educating your roommate on why it's important for you to store things in certain places so you can be more independent, or educating a parent about how to respect boundaries to help you live more easily with them. So, we've all had that example where parents may not necessarily look at us as adults, but as we get older, we need that privacy. So it's important to talk with them about it. Self-advocacy in groups. I like this one.
So communities, I do volunteer a lot, specifically with the GUTS program through the YWCA.
Cal, Montana. Those are like the main things that I volunteer with. And so I know since I've joined those groups, they have become, they were accessible in the first place, but they've come to realize since I've been with them for over 4 years now, both organizations, they've learned to like not accept, but like realize that what is accessible, there's still things to improve on, and just kind of like change their way how they use certain things. And when they see, because for some of those meetings, I end up walking into the meeting, and then in other things, I am in my chair. So times they forget, because they see me walking so many times that they forget about the chair, or they see the chair and they forget that I can do certain things. And so it's just kind of going back to having them understand that just because you have a button on a door doesn't mean that everything else is accessible. So kind of just they've really learned to ask more questions on what works and what doesn't work for me, and making sure that if there are other people who have physical disabilities, to make sure that they include them in their things and not just including them, but still feeling that exclusion of they may be in the organization, but they're not.
That kid makes a wonderful point, and he also points out that you can advocate no matter what your age. So that's why I love that so much.
So
Whoops. Okay. So in advocacy, it's a good idea to set goals. One of the first steps in advocacy is to consider thinking about the steps that are needed to make that change that you're working towards. Thinking about what you want the final outcome to be will help you consider the steps you need to take in order to be successful. You may decide to advocate to reach the end of the goal, but there may be unexpected steps that pop up along the way. But keep in mind your desired outcome and stick to your plan. It can be hard to know all of what your rights are and what you deserve. It can also be hard to know what is possible, especially when you're not given options or choices. So I think that's the hardest part of advocacy. You need to challenge others' beliefs as part of advocacy. You also need to challenge your own beliefs. Starting to discover what is possible will help you in doing that and empower you. So if you're not educated and you don't know what your rights are, then how are you going to make that change? And that to me is the hardest part of advocacy, is actually knowing what's possible and changing that mindset of what you've been told, or that garbage that you've been fed, like the disability rights advocates in the beginning of this said. You need to understand the possibilities. Peers are people with traits and values and ideas you have in common with. Seeking someone you like, a peer, in achieving goal can be a powerful experience, because you both understand each other. So seeking out others in a community can help you gain an understanding of what is possible. That's why we at Cal kind of preach peer support and peer-to-peer relationships, because there is nobody that can teach someone any better than somebody that's already walked that path themselves. And it can also help you feel like you're not alone. So you need to set that goal and work through the steps to reach that goal. You need to identify barriers, problem solving, and know who your audience is, like we talked about. And you need to realize that setting goals can be particularly helpful when new barriers and challenges present themselves, or if at first your advocacy efforts aren't accessible or successful, like going back to the example we talked about earlier. Maybe your first method of advocating for that store would be to talk to the store employee, but that may not always be successful. So reevaluate yourself that and maybe go to the owner with a letter. So I like this one too. A goal is a dream with a deadline, right? And you have to have a time lapse on it, or they have to be a SMART goal or with deadlines on it. So you can have a dream, but when you have a deadline to it, like I want to get this done in a certain amount of time, it becomes a goal. Once we know what we like, we know our values and what we want for ourselves, we can set goals. Goals are dreams that we have for ourselves. Goals can be short term. They can be something we can do quickly, that same day, a week, or a month, or even longer sometimes. So where to begin? When thinking about goals, we need to try to start small. Some of the questions we might ask ourselves would be, is there a new place or event I would like to go to next week? Is there a new skill I would like to learn? Is there someone that can help me and support me while working on this goal? What barriers might come up? What are the solutions to those barriers? Is there something small that I can accomplish today to help me achieve that goal? I feel like if you work on something every day, no matter how small it will be, you'll see yourself making progress to achieve whatever goal it is you want. And progress is important. So let's talk about an example. Imagine your goal is for more privacy. You may advocate with a parent about when they visit you about that privacy, and you may ask yourself the following steps. Decide when you want that family member to visit. Talk to your parent about times you've laid out. Remind your parent of those times and revisit those times as needed so they work best for you. Self-advocacy has its challenges. Advocating for what you need, what you want, what you desire, or what you have the right for does not always mean that you're successful in reaching that goal. Just because you do not reach the goal the first time does not mean that you have to give up. It means that you may have to adjust the steps in reaching that goal. Challenges in advocacy may include other people who oppose your point of view, others who do not take your request seriously, or laws and policies that may or may not be in place. Your advocacy targets may not always align with other people's opinions or be popular, right? That tension that can be involved. Emotions can run high when you counter in conflict along the way. Since advocacy can lead to tension, it is important to know yourself, your values, and your deal breakers. And know that conflict is not necessarily a deal breaker. Conflict does not mean that you should give up conflict, but it means that sometimes advocacy may make you less popular with other people who have opposing ideas. Sometimes people with opposing ideas can include a family, it can include friends or peers. Advocating for something that you believe in might upset others, but it does not mean it's not worth the conflict. You know, I was always told that something worth having is something worth fighting for. So, you know, just because there's conflict doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't try. Considering the following when advocating, you might want to consider who I need to ask. You might want to use I statements when asking for things you want or need. For example, I need you to clean the dishes so I can use the sink. Include why you want it or need it. If there's a law or policy in place, educate them about that law or policy. Show that you need support by mentioning when someone helps you. Remember that advocacy does not always lead to immediate results. With advocacy, even in small things, there might be barriers or setbacks along the way. Just because you do not see immediate change does not necessarily mean it's not worth speaking up. Advocacy can be done in different ways, but it requires you to think things through first, deciding how to advocate and when to advocate for a given issue. People you need to advocate with may have different goals than you do. And it's also important to take care of yourself and understand the investment and reward. So deciding when to advocate, they make a really good point here about having a gut check. A gut check means using your instincts. What is your first reaction to what is happening? What does what is happening feel wrong, or does it leave you feeling uneasy? And you have to be able to choose your battles, because again, we can't fight for them all, right? So it can be exhausting to advocate for everything in the world that you would like to see changed. You need to take your time and your advocacy efforts to work towards your goals, and know that it's okay in not pursuing something. Sometimes people use the term choosing your battles. We've all heard that. This means fighting the fight or seeking changes that are most important to you. We have to sort things out, right? So sorting out your feelings around the issue may help you decide whether the issue is key to your life or it's something that you can let go. So in thinking about a situation, consider the following. Do you know it's wrong? Is it breaking or disrespecting your personal beliefs or rights? Ask yourself, if you do nothing, will it hurt you, make you upset or angry? Can I let this go, or is it one of my deal breakers? What do I know about the situation? You also want to ask yourself that. And in thinking about that, ask yourself these following questions. What laws or rules protect you in this case? Are there people who you know that are experts in the area? Are there people that are having the same problem? Who do I know that holds the power? And do I have enough information? Timing is also right. It also has to be right. It's important in advocacy. You may want to ask yourself whether or not you need to wait or the time is now to advocate towards your efforts. So when thinking about that, ask yourself these questions. Is it the right time to advocate, or do I need more information first? Is it a safe time to advocate? Would speaking up put you or somebody else in danger? Sometimes advocacy has to happen immediately. Whenever possible, check with those you trust. Do they also think something is wrong? Am I being treated unfairly? Do I need more information? Practice what you want to say about a situation with someone you trust. So that's all good takeaways for this. What do I need to know? As a part of advocacy, building strong networks and relationships with others is important, especially people with and without disabilities, both. Consider who has the power, who is able to influence others, what groups or individuals might be able to help you. Building community support can be successful in achieving your goals. And I want to say something about this. We put out an advocacy newsletter once a month, or try to. So if you're looking for other people that want to advocate, the center definitely tries to get people together on certain issues. So let's listen to this person's story.
Yes, my freshman year, my very first class I went to, I did what I was always told to do when going to college is, before the college starts, go into the class or go meet the professor, which I did before school even started. And we got to talk, seemed very nice. And so when I handed him my accommodation sheet, he looked over, he said, yes, we can give you this. Yes, we can give you that. No, I will not give you this. And it happened to be recording class lectures, which is a real struggle for me if I don't get the recording, because sometimes I just don't hear things, or sometimes my brain just kind of shuts down and 5 minutes goes by and I have no idea what we're talking about. So I really had to fight that, saying I do need it. I'm not going to cheat, because it was a law class. So he really didn't want me, because it was the same lecture over and over again each year and each year. That's what I found out. And so he really didn't want me to use those recordings and sell it. So I kept talking to him in office. I was very polite, not demanding, but very trying to be an adult and saying, I do need these. I will succeed. I promise you I won't do anything with these. And ultimately, I actually had to use the Disability Center to have a meeting with him, as well as the people who are in the disability center. And we met up, and we actually came up with an agreement where I could record. However, I had to create a contract saying at the end of the year, I will delete all these in front of him and all the lecture notes. And we each had to sign on it. And so I actually did get to, at the very end, get to use my accommodations, but I did have to fight for it a little bit. And that's not with every professor. Now, all the professors I've known these days will let me use it. They have no questions about it. And a lot of them will actually like, do you need this? Do you need this? So they're very approachable. But the big thing is just not to be afraid.
So he identified people that could help him with the disability services, could help him formulate to get what he needed. That's awesome. There we go. So ways to advocate. Advocacy involves communicating with others, but there are ways to do that. So you may talk in person, you may write in a letter or an email, you may use media, including newspapers, radio, or social media through the internet, such as Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Depending on who you need to influence and what you are comfortable with doing, and who else, excuse me, let me go back. I didn't mean to click there, sorry. Depending on who you need to influence, what you are comfortable with doing, and who else is supporting you can help you decide on how you're going to advocate. So what's the best course of action? Depending on all of those factors. So here's system advocacy. What is system advocacy? It's advocating or fighting for in favor of something. System advocacy can be working to change the law or policies that affect people. System advocacy involves groups of people working towards a common goal. System advocacy can be looked at in 3 different parts. A group of people coming together, united in the same goal. Educating others about needs, wants, and desires and rights of that group. And uniting with other groups to create change to meet that goal. In systems advocacy, a group of people usually comes together to change a part of the system. The system can include something that affects that group of people, from housing rules, policies of state and local government, or federal laws. System advocacy is the root of many social movements that have historically led to changes for rights of many people. So you may think about Civil Rights Act, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and many more. Educating others about the impact of the current system is a large part of system advocacy. A lot of education in system advocacy involves understanding the role of groups and how a group seeks to educate others about an issue and how others will eventually respond, hopefully. Educating others can be challenging, and there can be a lot involved in system advocacy. So uniting on an issue. Uniting with others and joining forces is one of the largest parts of system advocacy. It means individuals with a variety of viewpoints have to come together on a specific topic or issue. Uniting as a group and advocating gives that group more power and increases the likelihood of achieving that goal. You can talk to us as a Center for Independent Living or other nonprofits about examples of system advocacy, but I'll give you one. Currently, the center is partnered with a few other groups in the state to advocate for the rights of parents with disabilities, and we've come together in a coalition to put out information about it and hopefully change the state law that is still on the books that individuals with disabilities can be discriminated against solely on the basis of their disability due to in situations of parenting or working with the child welfare system. It's hard to do that on our own, but if we come together with other people that have that common goal, then hopefully we can achieve it. So when no takes its toll, we've all heard no, right? And no happens a lot. But it can be tiring. It can be discouraging. It can make you feel like maybe you're never going to achieve that goal or you have no power to fix the issue. It may be deep. It may make you understand that there's a deeper problem with the community or laws. Eleanor Roosevelt said, never allow a person to tell you no who doesn't have the power to say yes. So ways to take care of yourself when times get tough and you hear that no a lot. Celebrating small victories can help you balance the losses. Understanding inequality and try not to take it personally. It's an issue, not an attack towards you. Practice advocacy in a safe place, like advocating at a restaurant, and where they can bring you food. I always say bringing gifts makes things a little better. It's kind of softens the tensions. Role playing with a friend and practice what you want to say. Seeking information from other people who have been in the situation or faced that problem. Surround yourself with peers and other people that support you and make you feel good about yourself. Sometimes in self-care and looking at an issue, we have to step back for a minute. Being a good advocate also means knowing your limits. If advocacy or discrimination becomes too much, you may want to step back. Stepping back means giving yourself time to recover from all the hard work. It doesn't necessarily mean quitting. And having a good support system is also important in caring for yourself when times get hard. You might want to ask somebody to take over for a while. You are the best expert of your life. So you might want to, you need to take care of your physical as well as your mental health. Taking breaks and knowing your limits and stepping back when you need to is an important part of taking care of yourself. When you're ready, you can step back into the issue and begin advocating again for what is important to you. So this is the end of my presentation. Does anybody have any questions or anything that they would like to say? I didn't say in the beginning, but I want to give credit to the Healthy Living community. We purchased a license for some of their materials to be able to give you this presentation today. I want to thank the people that join and even the people that watch later. Does anybody have any questions? I apologize for the hiccups in the beginning and the late start, but I appreciate you hanging in there with me. Okay. Oh. Thank you all.
Can I stop recording?
Yes.
Thanks, Krista.
Thank you.